Subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon and never miss an update from Latestly.
पहले तो ये बताया मतलब this your name of yours, Ricky Kej, itself is very unusual. It's unusual here in India or it's unusual abroad as well? What kind of what kind of reactions you get?
No, it's not a very unusual name actually because Ricky is a very common Spanish name that is used all the time. Like you have Ricky Ponting, you have Ricky Martin, you have a lot of other famous people who are called Ricky. It's just that my parents are both Indian, and the thing is that so they were brought up in America, and I was born there. So at that time there was no plans to move to India. So my parents just gave me a Western name so that it would be easier for me to go to school and for people to address me in a more easier way. So they do not want to have a complicated name. So Ricky is a name which Indians can pronounce and Westerners can pronounce. So I guess that's why they went for that.
Does your last name evoke curiosity?
No, not necessarily. It's a Marwadi surname. It's a Kej, but it's a very rare surname.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what you have created, I mean, in terms of music, in terms of composition, is rare as well, isn't it?
No, not really. It's what do you call that? It's just music from the heart. So whatever I feel like making, I make because, as you know, I do not do movie music. I do not do commercial music. So the only kind of music that I make is stuff that I feel very strongly about. Because music is an art form at the end of the day. And I believe that what's happening nowadays is that it's not being treated as an art form. It's being treated more as a commercial entity. In terms of like, if you look at a painter like, for example, a painter like Picasso, when he is making a painting, he's not going to go to all the neighboring art galleries and see, what is everybody doing, let me do something similar, or nobody's going to come and brief him that, I want a painting like this because people like it, or, that kind of a thing. So basically he'll create art based on what he believes in, or he will, all his art is basically a reflection of his personality, his beliefs, his philosophies. And that's what I believe music needs to be. Because unfortunately in India, what's happening right now is that, every single song that comes out is either a love song or an item song. Nobody's writing music about anything else in India. And we've got so many problems in India. We've got so many things that need to be addressed. Everybody speaks about things that they feel strongly about, but nobody is writing music on these things, because when you are in India, it is understood that you have to make music for the film industry. Like Bollywood, when I'm a composer.
For Bollywood especially.
Yeah, and Bollywood and any of the local film industries, they're also equally big as Bollywood.
Right.
But the thing is that when I tell people in India that I'm a composer, the first question I'm asked is which movie. That is how deeply integrated.
Hang on, Ricky. You have created music for Kannada film industry.
I've done three movies in 2008, 2009, and 2010.
That's correct.
With one director. So what happened was that was basically my stepping stone, because you cannot say you're not going to do something without trying it out.
Huh.
So and that is something that I always believe in, that you should try it out. If you feel strongly about something, try it out. Don't say that you're not going to do it without even trying it out.
Doesn't Bollywood fancy you?
No, not at all. Not even the least bit. Because as I said, that the thing is that it needs to be something that comes from the heart. It needs to be something that really that you completely believe in. See, like for example, you talk about composers like a Bollywood composer like let's say Vishal Dadlani. Okay, what kind of a personality is he? He's like a person who is heavily into advocating women's rights. He's heavily into politics, and he is a very strong-minded person. He anytime there is any kind of injustice, he's always speaking against it and all of that stuff. But at the same time, his most popular song till date is Sheila Ki Jawani.
Ironically.
Yeah. So then the thing is that why are people making music that they themselves do not listen to, number one? And why are they making music that they themselves do not believe in, and music that is not their personality at all? Because Sheila Ki Jawani, I cannot imagine Vishal sitting down in the evening and listening to Sheila Ki Jawani, So that's what. So why are you making music that you're not listening to, So that is my main point, that you should be making music that you yourself listen to and you yourself absolutely enjoy.
Ricky, in that case, there is no hope for Bollywood in your mind, I mean, according to you, whatsoever. I mean, perhaps you can bring about the much needed change with your music.
why are you so fixated on Bollywood? That's my question to you.
I'm asking you that because
You can ask me other questions like that why aren't you doing Russian music? Why aren't you doing French
Absolutely.
music? Why
I'll
are
come to
you
that.
so fixated on Bollywood?
I'll
So
tell you.
that is
I'll give you the
basically the
answer.
Indian
I'll give you the
mindset.
answer. I'll give you the
Yeah,
answer
tell
to
me,
that
tell
one.
me,
Because
tell me.
Bollywood, India is largely associated with Bollywood. So whatever you want
Correct.
to create, perhaps a larger picture that you want to portray, Bollywood can actually act as an entry door to gain the much needed eyeballs first in the West. Of course, you have one Grammy and nothing can be matched with that. But after being popular with that, then you can open up those endeavors can open up other doors for you. Don't you think
So
so?
you mean that if I'm going to be making music on gender equality and all of that stuff, and then I have to do a couple of item songs to get there?
Not items. And Bollywood does create good songs too, good lyrics as well.
No, all of them are love songs or item songs. If you can name a couple of others which come to your mind, please let me know.
Barfi, for example. Barfi, for
Huh?
example. The movie Barfi was really
Yeah,
nice. I mean, there was no item song whatsoever. Good
but
lyrics,
but
fantastic composition, and it was appreciated
but
all.
they were all love songs. They were all love songs, and plus the thing is that I strictly do not believe that that anything. I mean, everything was based on a brief that was given by a director. Nothing has basically come from the heart. So basically, the problem is that you are absolutely fixated on Bollywood right now,
I'm a
and you
total
believe that
Bollywood
if you're a
fanatic.
composer, yeah, if you're a composer, then you need to be in Bollywood, which is absolutely not the case. In fact, I can throw the question back to you: why hasn't a single Bollywood composer ever won an international award in this world?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because they,
Not a
I mean,
single
whatever.
person.
Not a single person. Not a single
Not a
person.
single
And
person. Not a single Bollywood
exactly,
composer has ever
exactly.
won an international award. Because the thing is that the music of Bollywood, even though people say it is international, it is only listened to by people of the Indian diaspora.
Hmm.
So that is what it is not international. People who have gone international are people like Pandit Ravi Shankar. You know,
True.
Pandit Ravi Shankar, when he would do a concert in, let's say, Carnegie Hall, or he would do a concert at the Sydney Opera House or at the Royal Opera House or whatever, the thing is that the audience would be a complete mixed bag of audience, like from all over the world, not just Indians, maybe only 10% of them would be Indians, but it would be
True.
from all over the world. But he would be playing Indian music. He would not be playing Bollywood music, which is basically hip hop music, which is being paraded as Indian music.
That's
So
correct.
basically, he would be playing proper Indian classical music, and he would cross these cultural barriers where he would get people from any ethnicity, any race to actually listen to his music. But in India, like Pandit Ravi Shankar as being like what that what's his daughter's name?
Anushka.
Yeah, correct. Which award did he win? The biggest award in India ever?
Oh, wow. Man,
The
man,
Bharat
man.
Ratna. Bharat Ratna. You know he's won the Bharat Ratna. Correct. Name one song of Pandit Ravi Shankar.
Oh, that will be really difficult. That will be real difficult. Though I watched.
He's a Bharat Ratna winner. He's a
Yeah.
Bharat Ratna winner. He's the greatest musician that India has ever had, and everybody acknowledges that. He
Right.
single-handedly made Indian music popular everywhere else with the Beatles, with Madonna, and playing with all these great musicians. But you cannot name one piece of music by Pandit Ravi Shankar.
True. Sad reality, but
So
true.
that shows the reality of what is happening in India. And Ravi Shankar is true Indian music. Bollywood is
Right.
not.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely frank, and you do not want to, sit on the fence, and you're absolutely clear about it that Bollywood cannot act as a tool, even to bring about the much needed change. It cannot.
Absolutely not, because Bollywood is taking us in the opposite direction by having misogyny in movies, by showcasing poor women's rights. Very few times, like in a whole year, you have about 2 or 3 films which show women in strong characters. So
Right.
basically, I think Bollywood is going in the exact opposite direction. Showing violence as being something that is absolutely justified. So basically, I would say that bringing about much needed social change, as you're saying, Bollywood is not the medium. There are a few films that come out, but they're few and very far in between. If Bollywood makes a movie like what do you call that, which is about the environment, or a movie which is socially responsible, like the numerous movies that come out in Hollywood, which are very socially responsible, I would absolutely, beg the producer to make me part of that movie. But the thing is that, but if it is anything that is against what I believe in personally, then I will not I will definitely not be able to be part of a movie, simply because I believe that if I am an artist, I have to stand by what I believe in.
Absolutely. What also made me laugh was the fact that after holding that Grammy in your hand, that prestigious award in your hand, and when you when you came back here and you were doing a couple of interviews here with radio stations, and I don't know where exactly, but they were asking you who are the celebrities who are present on that particular gala night, instead of asking you how did you compose your song and how did you get there. So the presence of Hollywood celebrities was a focal point rather than you being the star on that particular night, which was laughable, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was laughable, but it's a valid question, I guess, because the thing is that, because at the end of the day, it is an award show. So at an award show, people want to know, like, who all are and who all did I get to meet and all that stuff. So I guess even though it is laughable, it is basically, I think it is a valid question simply because even me, I guess, like, if somebody tells me that, that I went for this premiere, I would be like, oh, did you see Tom Cruise or did you see that person?
But I mean, you could have easily brushed it off. You could have easily said, hello, hang on. That night I was a star myself.
I think you should have been with me to answer that question on my behalf.
Next time, absolutely.
Correct.
We are here not to talk about Bollywood. We are not here to talk about popular cinema, etc. We are here to talk about a very, very good cause and through a very, very good platform. Please tell us about that. Unfolding on 21st June?
Yeah, 21st June, correct, on this Sunday. So, so basically, I've always been a musician and I've always been an environmentalist. So it's basically two pillars that have pretty much dictated my whole life and all of my life decisions. And throughout my career, I've constantly, made, music on the environment and, and I've always, shown that side of mine. But then after I won the Grammy Award is when I strongly decided that every single piece of music that comes out of me has to be about the environment and has to be about making this world a better place, in the sense that, so that's what. So all my music right now for the last 5 years has been only about social causes and about generally in my own small way to try and uplift society and to try to talk about what is wrong with society or try to talk about what we need to celebrate about the environment and what we need to celebrate about nature and things like that. So in doing that, all my performances all over the world, since the last 5 years, I've performed in more than 35 countries, including 3 times now at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. And I realized, at some point that, that we need to start with the children, because all this music that I'm performing in front of thousands and thousands of people all over the world and, all this music that I'm making and and disseminating, if you do not start with the children, then, nothing happens basically. So that's why I created these songs called My Earth Songs, which are 15 songs, which are based on sustainability. Like we've got one song on plastics, another song on the rhinoceros, another song about trees, another song about, about saving water, that kind of stuff, like about different topics. But all the songs are really fun. They're energetic. They are like nursery rhymes.
In total, we have 27 songs?
We've got 27 songs, but for the performance, we are performing 15 songs.
Okay.
On Sunday. So basically what we're doing is that, so all these songs are really simple to learn. They are very, like you listen to it once, it sticks in your head and they're pretty much like nursery rhymes, like very, very simple songs, no complications or whatever. And we are disseminating this. We started with disseminating this through the education system. So currently they are in more than 4 million textbooks in India. And they are, so basically the lyrics are in the textbooks. There is a QR code. So parents can scan that and they get the song onto their phone, because it's a very good, the songs that you learn during your childhood are the songs you remember forever. So that is what I decided that, why not teach children something that's meaningful and fun so that, that will pretty much dictate, their morals for the rest of their life. So that is what the concert is going to be. We've brought together 6 Grammy Award winners and from all over the world. And we are going to be performing performing these songs to children and to the child in everyone. So I hope that
on a very special day. Absolutely. On a very special
it's World Music Day.
Absolutely. Help me understand this. Help me decode this. I mean, once you reach a certain level, it is fairly easy to complicate things, to make it complex, convoluted.
Agreed.
Not so easy to come a step or two below and make it very catchy and simple. How did you manage to achieve that one?
It was very difficult. You pretty much hit it on the nail, because the thing is that when you're actually composing music, you always think that, okay, let me put this chord into it, let me put that, let me get a violin player, let me get something else and all that. It is really difficult to constantly hold your back, don't do that, keep it simple. So it was me constantly hitting myself on my head, that stop, keep it as simple as possible because simple is better, and simple is more.
Simple is difficult as well.
Very, very difficult. Yeah.
How did you do sampling for this? Did you make your tunes and your songs? I mean, were there kids around? You could take sampling from those, reactions from those, responses from those kids, and then go ahead. How did it work out?
So it was a 2-year project because of that. Simply because of that, because normally I would be able to finish off like these 27 songs in just a month. I would be able to finish it off. But the thing is that it took 2 years because of this. Because what we would do is that we would make a couple of songs and then we would perform it in schools. So what we would do is that I had a very close friend who helped me write these songs, a person called Dominic De Cruz, and another person from New York, a guy called Lonnie Park. So what we did was that we would write the songs, then Dominic and me would go to schools and perform these songs for free to children. We would go into classrooms, we would go into assemblies, and we would perform the songs, and we would see, where are the kids dancing, where are they getting excited? Because at the end of the day, you can put whatever messages you want, but if the kids are not entertained by the songs, then it's no point, basically. So they have to be entertained by it. So we would do that, and we would feel very excited when children would sing along with us. Sometimes we would take lyrics and put it on a big screen. Sometimes we would not put it on a big screen because we would see if they are by-hearting the lyrics while we are performing it to them, Okay. And if that happens, then we know that the lyrics are simple enough. And if sometimes they are finding it difficult to pronounce a word, immediately that word is knocked off, And same thing Lonnie was doing in America. What he would do is that he would go to schools in America, he would just take his guitar and he would sing to the children, and he would try to see, what is working over there and what is working over here, and we would sort of try to find a balance, and that is what we were doing. So it was a lot of sampling, as you mentioned, was there for to try to get this to a point where children absolutely love it.
From the way I read things, from the way you're narrating it, how did you manage to strike that universal chord? Because what you're creating here is not just for Indian kids or American kids. These themes themselves are very, very universal. So what exactly went into making them universal?
So the themes are the United Nations has got, and I'm an ambassador with the United Nations. So they've got this thing known as the Sustainable Development Goals. So it was something that was written in 2015, which are basically a set of 17 goals that the United Nations wants to achieve by 2030. And these are very well written. And plus, these 17 goals have been signed off by all the 195 countries which are members of the United Nations. So they've been signed off. So basically, these goals have been written in consultation with all the 195 countries. So the goals are very simple, like they seem simple, like, eradicating poverty, eradicating hunger, then talking about innovation, decent jobs and growth, climate action, life on land, life underwater, that kind of stuff. All sustainability stuff, So that was my starting point. So basically, I took those 17 goals and I started reading up those 17 goals. I really internalized it and I realized, okay, these are the problems. And plus, I've traveled all over the world through concerts. Whenever I travel to a country, like let's say, if I go to Kenya or I go to Ethiopia or I go to South Africa or I go to the Congo, what I do is that the day before the concert or the day after the concert, I usually have meetings with government officials. Since I work with the United Nations, I have meetings with government officials and I speak to them about the problems that they're facing with their constituencies. I speak to them about what are the top 5 or 6 focal points that they have in solving problems within their own countries or within their own constituencies or municipalities. And these are things which I really take to heart. And I'm constantly thinking about music. Whenever they're talking to me, I'm constantly thinking about music. So basically that. So all these things have been put together in my Earth song. So they're absolutely universal. And a kid in South Africa or a kid in Senegal or a kid in the Congo will be able to enjoy this as much as a kid in France or in America.
Since you're mentioning political influences, let me reiterate my audience here. I mean, your song, what a beautiful piece was that, what a beautiful creation was that. Winds of Sansara was launched by none other than India's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, as well as French President François Hollande. So what the inputs were, what verbal exchanges were there like? I mean, did you tell them that you have to focus on kids, you have to focus on, environment sustainability and causes like that?
So the thing is that that particular album was not an album for children. That was like one of my regular music albums. But so the story behind that album was that after I'd won the Grammy Award, Prime Minister Modi had invited me for a meeting. And I was told that it's going to be like a very quick photo op, like about a 5-minute thing of hello, congratulations. But it ended up becoming a 1-hour long discussion because when I sat down to speak, I started speaking about the environment. And that is when Prime Minister Modi started discussing about his views on what needs to be done. And then the conversation went on for almost an hour then. And that is when he told me that he's going to be going for the climate change conference in Paris, which is the biggest ever conference of nations in the history of our planet, where 195 countries came together to decide what do we do about carbon emissions and how do we stop climate change, stop the effects of climate change. So then I was quite excited about it. And then we just decided at the spur of the moment that I'll make an album which features musicians from all over the world and he will launch it over there.
Wow.
So that's what I went and did. I made the album and the album had 500 musicians from 40 countries. From India, we had Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, we had Shankar Mahadevan, we had Mr. Hariharan, Pandit Vishnu Mohan Bhatt. Of course, from America, we had a whole lot of people. We had from Bruno Mars, Philip Lawrence, we had the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra from London. And all these people, I put them together and then I made this album. I showcased it to Prime Minister Modi. He loved the album and then he launched it over there with the French president. So that was quite a proud moment for me, to have that and to have music which is about the environment and not popular music, not Bollywood music, getting that kind of a stage, because and it felt good and it almost reaffirmed. And what Prime Minister Modi did was basically reaffirm that what I'm doing, that to continue on this path, because the thing is that even if it's not popular music and it won't be played on radio, it won't be played on television, at least it'll get those kind of stages so that I will feel encouraged to continue to make music like this,
Ricky, while I completely get that you come from the space of honesty, integrity, and you're pursuing on the path of excellence in terms of music, you want to do what exactly you want to do. You do not want to get swayed or lured or seduced by anything else, all those elements. But the names you mentioned are quite, these are big names, Mr. Bachchan and the names that those names.
No, but it feels good.
None of them attempted at all to persuade you, to kind of sway you, tell you that
no, actually
make music for Bollywood as well, perhaps, or mainstream music industry. Yeah.
But to be honest, that does not happen actually, because also another good friend of mine is Mr. A.R. Rahman.
Yes.
And the thing is that nobody persuades me, because the thing is that I think, what happens is that when I talk to them and they listen to my music and all of that stuff, they feel that, that this person should continue doing this because at least somebody is doing it,
There are thousands others who are doing Sheila Ki Jawani. Let him stick to environment and sustainability and something really
let him do this.
Substantial. Yeah.
Let him do this. But at the same time, what I really appreciate about these great personalities is that they support me. And that is something that I'm very grateful to them, because, like, for example, Mr. Shankar Mahadevan, I did an online concert recently on June 13th, where, where it was all my environmental songs. And the singers were Mr. Shankar Mahadevan, we had Salim Merchant, we had Kailash Kher, we had Niti Mohan, Benny Dayal, Udit Narayan, Aditya Narayan. So we had all these amazing singers singing on this online concert. And it was amazing, and it almost brought tears to my eyes that, that these great personalities who have got such huge following have agreed to participate in my concert, and sing my songs rather than sing their own songs, at the concert, which was quite amazing. So that is what gives me a lot of inspiration and gives me a lot of hope, for the kind of stuff that I'm doing. And that's what encourages me.
Trust me, they might hold impressive portfolio, but none of them have got Grammy on their CV.
But actually, but the thing is that what one has to, coming back to your point earlier, and agreeing with you, that at the end of the day, a lot of people say that, why don't Indian musicians make it big in the West, Why are there only 4 Grammy Award winners in India? I'm the fourth, basically, and there are only 4 Grammy Award winners in India. Why are there no more Grammy Award winners in India? And my answer to them is very simple, that with India having 1.3 billion people, which is 1/6 of the world's population, you don't need to go outside India. You've got a huge audience right here, So that is what I guess a lot of people feel, that, if you can break this audience, if you can break into this audience in a mainstream way in India, then you don't need to look outside of India, because you will get a far bigger audience in India than you can get internationally. So that is the way it is. And that is the reason why, people like Akon have tried so hard to break into the Indian music industry. People like Beyonce also have tried to break into the Indian music industry. Kylie Minogue, all these people, they try their level best because they're like, oh, if you are able to reach to this Bollywood population and if you're able to reach out to this huge 1.3 billion people, then it's amazing, like our audience will be doubled up, automatically.
Absolutely.
But the thing is that, they've never been able to break into it, but they've tried all their best. But that is what India is, a massive, massive population for music.
Thankfully, your composition and your creations are not catering to every sixth individual on the planet that is Indian. It has universal theme to it. It has universal message to it, which is super.
No, but then the hope is always that I can cater to them. So I'm going to constantly try my best to get my music more and more out to to the Indian audience. So I'm going to constantly do my best to try to do that.
Absolutely. And kids playing an integral role in this particular endeavor. What do you have to say about that? You want to start them real young, understand the dire consequences we could possibly face if we do not care for our environment? What the message is like? What was going in your head to be able to create something that can possibly act as a tool to bring about the much needed change?
I'm very glad you're asking me these questions. I mean that this is, I think, one of the very, very few thoroughly researched interviews I've ever done. So I'm very happy doing this interview, first of all. So I wanted to compliment you on that. So the thing is that, so when it comes to children, there is this very famous saying that, that we do not inherit this world from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. Because at the end of the day, we as a human species need to constantly think about the future of our species, And we seem to be the only species which do not think about the future of our species. We only think about what's happening right now with us. So basically, I believe that the way for us to bring about change is basically if we start young, as you mentioned. That is if we start with the children, because I believe that children can be a very, very important force to get their parents to change. Like for example, when My Earth Songs, when we introduced this in schools, one of the biggest feedback that we got from schools is that when they were singing this, especially this particular song we've got called The Plastic War, which is basically about plastic garbage and about plastic trash and not using single-use plastics. So the thing is that song, the children liked it a lot. And apparently there were at least about 20 to 25 schools who came up to me, like in the sense that who wrote me emails saying that the children have forced the school authorities to go completely single-use plastic free. And it seems that when parents were giving chocolates to children with plastic wrappers, children were refusing it, saying that give us chocolates which do not use plastic wrappers.
Wow.
So that is the thing. So so basically the parents were shamed by the children into action, and that was quite amazing. So children can be a very important force. And what's happening with Greta Thunberg, for example, the Swedish 17-year-old Swedish activist. Yes. I mean that the way she managed to do this, because she said that a basic premise of her protest of Fridays for Future protest is that, all you politicians are old people, and you guys are making decisions which are horrible for the planet. And we are going to be inheriting whatever you guys leave behind. And so basically you have to take us into confidence and you have to use us in the decision-making process, simply because whatever decisions you make are going to affect us in the long run, because you're going to live for like maybe 10 or 15 years, but we have to face the consequences of your actions for the next 60 to 70 years, So that is the idea, and that is why children need to be aware of what is going on right now. And that is the only way that they are going to demand for change.
Absolutely. Take it as criticism or take it as a compliment. I must reaffirm the fact here that for someone who has created more than 3,000 jingles, don't you feel there is a need to create something for Indian kids who liberally throw, plastic bottles, chocolate wrappers out of the window when they commute on trains or buses?
So the thing is that, jingles was a very important part of my life all the way from, I think, 1999 to about 2011. I did a whole lot of jingles, did more than 3,000 of them for pretty much every brand you can imagine. So that was my commercial sellout self, but why I enjoyed doing jingles a lot was that for me, it was a huge learning experience because for example, yesterday I would have done a jingle on, let's say, a Tamil folk jingle. Today I would do like a Celtic jingle. Tomorrow I would do a heavy metal jingle. The day after tomorrow I would do a hip hop jingle. So basically my music is fusion because of my life doing jingles. Because the way to do a jingle is that you get a brief in the morning and by evening you have to deliver. So you have to constantly be at your toes for every single genre of music, because you can get a brief in the morning and immediately you just have to get down to finishing it off, and composing that particular piece of music. So that is, my music has got musicians from all over the world, different types of genres, different type of cultures together, because of my experience doing jingles, because I've met all these musicians, and I've I've learned all these different forms of music while doing jingles. But coming to children about plastics and all of that stuff about throwing plastics, that's what My Earth Songs is all about, actually. Like, in the sense that the songs are pretty much like, jingles for, for plastics. Like, for example, we've got a song which is based on, which is about hunger, which is about hunger. So that particular song is about teaching children not to waste food. And there is another song which is about poverty. So what we've done is that it's a song teaching children that sharing is the best thing that you can possibly do, And there is another song which is about the rhinoceros. So teaching children that, that the rhinoceros's horn is extremely important for the rhinoceros, like in the sense that, so basically that, but all in a fun way. None of my songs are about gloom. None of the songs are about, all this is going wrong in the world. Everything is about energy, that let's do this, let's do that, it's amazing if we can do this, if we can achieve this. So it's all about positivity.
The positive, optimistic soul, creative person that you are, how do you see this particular phase of pandemic? Do you think that this is an early sign, perhaps, of an impending danger, perhaps global warming? And we must learn something from this phase to be able to face the bigger challenge, which is likely to come in the next few years, and prepare ourselves for the same.
So the pandemic is obviously a result of deforestation, and it's definitely coming from the forest, and it's pretty much a proof that we humans have gone really further into nature in places that we should not have gone into. So that's what we've destroyed ecosystems, and we have done things which we are not supposed to do, and this is nature's way of telling us to just stop, just immediately stop what you're doing. Now, the thing is that when it comes to climate change itself, climate change is pretty much the biggest existential crisis that the human race has ever seen, because entire island nations are going underwater. I've been to these islands in the South Pacific island nations, and all of that stuff. Coastal lines are going underwater. Hurricanes and disasters are becoming much worse than they have ever been. Like we read about in the newspapers, every natural disaster is 10 times what it used to be. What do you call that? Animals are dying, species are going extinct. So all this is happening. Now, the thing is that everybody said that, we cannot bring down our carbon emissions. We cannot change the way we're doing things because humans will never change, And politicians used to keep telling us that, no, people will not stop flying, People will not stop driving their cars. You cannot stop people from doing things, And then now when the pandemic came in, when people felt very strongly that, there could be an imminent danger to themselves or to their loved ones, immediately there was behavioral change on a mass scale, and immediate behavioral change, where everything just stopped because people felt an imminent danger. Because unfortunately, climate change does not feel like an imminent danger.
True.
So that is what. So basically, what has happened is that we as human beings have proven that we can come about mass behavioral change if we truly believe, and if it is communicated to us well enough, that, that we are under imminent danger. So I believe that the PR agency of the pandemic needs to be hired by climate change,
Absolutely. Very, very well said. My last question. Since
Tell me.
you travel a lot, someone who makes the country proud, and someone who travels a lot, and music is such an integral part of your DNA, perhaps the only part of your DNA, which speaks so strongly about who you are. Tell me how music is going to, in the days to come, via different platform, be it podcast, be it digital, be it television, radio, whatever, can perhaps bring about the change that can lead us on the correct path. Course correction is the need of the hour. How music is going to play its part to bring about that change.
So the thing is that I guess everybody has to work together, because see, for example, scientists come up with the data. They make us understand exactly what is wrong with this world. They even interpret the data. Then after that, politicians come about with legislation, because they understand the data and they figure out, what is important for our people. Now, in my opinion, the biggest problem that we are facing on our planet is two things. One is that the public itself constantly feels that somebody else will make a difference, The public constantly feels that, that they're waiting for politicians to make a difference, leaders to make a difference, NGOs, corporations, intergovernmental bodies to make a difference. When the truth is that we need to bring about change in our own lives. And that's the only way change is going to happen. We need to start consuming less. We need to start, stop wasting things. We need to understand that, that every single thing that we do has got an impact on the environment. So we have to understand how can we do things in a more friendlier way to the environment. And the second thing is about
sorry to interrupt. When you have bodies like WWF, UNICEF, right alongside you, helping you, working in tandem with you, to what degree does that help?
Yeah, so I'll come to that. The second thing is basically that politicians, now democracy is the best form of governance that we have right now. And I do not believe that there is anything that is better than democracy. I think democracy is the best form of governance and the only form of governance that should be there. But democracy has got one major flaw. That what's happened is that politicians and leaders all over the world have evolved from becoming leaders to followers. Because what's happening is that rather than taking strong and impactful decisions based on data and taking long-term decisions which will have positive impacts in about 20 years, everybody's fighting an election every 4 to 5 years. So pretty much their whole life, they're just fighting an election, And what happens is that the only thing they can do is take short-term reforms which can show results within 2 to 3 years, which ends up being economic. It cannot, because environmental decisions cannot show results in about 2 to 3 years. So everything is about limping on and not bothering about the environment. And that is what's happening right now. Our leaders are becoming followers. They're not becoming, without exception, everywhere in the world, we only have followers and no leaders. Now, the thing is that when it comes to these organizations like WWF and UN Environment and IUCN and all these amazing organizations that are doing wonderful work in the environment, their hands are completely tied because they have to work with policymakers in order to bring about change because they're intergovernmental bodies and they're doing their best. But at the same time, what needs to happen is that there needs to be strong societal transformation. And that's where people like you, people like me, artists can make a huge difference because we can get into the emotions, we can get into the soul, we can get into the hearts and minds of people, and explain to them that, that we need to change our ways. Because only if we change our ways, there will be change, number one. And number two is that if we elect the right leaders and we reward the right leaders for doing the right thing. Because at the end of the day, if there's a politician like, let's say, Donald Trump, if he truly believes that he's going to get re-elected if he does something about climate change, why will he not do it, Because at the end of the day, so that is what. But he truly believes that the public does not want it. Yes. And public wants coal power plants, public wants jobs, public wants this. He truly believes that. So that is why he's doing that. So basically, every politician will only do things that they believe will get them re-elected.
Absolutely. They say charity begins from home. Change also must begin from home, from you and me. Ricky Kej, thanks a lot for joining us, for your lovely inputs, for the kind of creations that you have created and about to create and give us. Thanks a lot for being the honest person that you are, the honest musician, composer that you are, and the place from which all your creations come from, which is a place of honesty and integrity. Thank you so much for joining us.
Very grateful for this interview. I really, really had a good time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the best. Cheers.
Thank you. All my best. Thank you. Cheers.